Spirit. Good and gracious God, I just thank you for this evening. I thank you for the gift of youth. I thank you for their love of you. Lord, they're just an inspiration to myself and to the adults in their lives as well, and to even their younger peers. Lord, I just ask that you guide our time together tonight to grow in virtue and love of one another and love of self this evening as we discuss what it means to be a good partner and what to look for in that good partner, Lord. Mother Mary, I just ask that you wrap your mantle around us, protect us, and keep us pure of heart as we say, Hail Mary.
Full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now at the hour of our death. Amen.
Alrighty, so, fully healthy dating, right? So, I don't know about you guys, but our culture is not necessarily set up for that. So, the fact that you guys are here tonight is really awesome. I love the brave gentleman sitting right up. So I know, you're just like, there's no other seats, that's why. So it's okay, I promise. What I'm going to start with is, just as a curiosity for me, how many of you have dated? Just give me okay, sweet. So over half of you, I would say, at least a good half, if not a little bit more of you have dated. How many of you look back now and say, what was I thinking? Even Father Feist. Okay, so, right? So this is something that I think is really important for us to kind of take a step back and look at, okay, so was it me? Was it them? Was it it's not me, it's you, or it's not you, it's me? You know what I mean? When that relationship ended, or what was I thinking? Or if any of us have been in an awkward situation where you have that wonderful ex, and then you're with the new person you may be dating, and you run into the old ex, and you're like, and it's a very awkward moment, right? Okay, so after my husband and I dated for a while, a little funny, kind of funny now, not funny in the moment story, right? Okay, so after we had been married and stuff for a while, we were out to eat, and we were in line at a restaurant, and an ex-boyfriend was in line with his wife, which was fine, but things didn't end very well between the two of us. And I just remember going, oh my gosh. And he's like, isn't that? And I was like, yep. And we just stood there. And it was this really awkward feeling, like, you know, you wished you could have the world kind of swallow you up right then because you didn't necessarily want to be with that person. And it's not that it was a horrible relationship. It was just that it ended not well, right? Okay, so, I mean, it ended for a reason. And for those of you who have dated, you know that. When things end, it can not always be well, even if it's amicable and things go well. So, knowing and understanding where we come from and who we are is really important. I love to look now, my new favorite, I just was on retreat this weekend, in between that and a training for with my catechist and stuff down in Dayton. And the beloved Apostle John. There's so much that can be said about him, but the one thing that I love is that we're all beloved. So to sit back and understand that before I start dating, I kind of have to know me a little bit. Because if I don't know me, and I'm kind of a hot mess, I'm just going to be your other half of your hot mess, right? So I have to kind of figure out, okay, like, how can I work on me first? Well, first I would ask all of you guys to just kind of sit and think in your mind, do you really believe that you are beloved sons and daughters of our risen Lord? Like, really, not like head knowledge, right? Like, not like, Jesus loves me, this I know, right? Okay, not like that. Not like I know God loves me. Do you know God loves you? Do you know that no matter what you've done in your past, no matter what you may do tomorrow, that he would still have died for you? Like, do you really believe that and understand that at your core? Because if you do understand that and you're starting to believe that, then that shapes who you are to the world, to other people. And that means the person in the grocery store, that means your friends, and that means a possible future husband or wife if that's what God has in store for you. But I have to start looking at people and things through a different lens. And that can be really hard in our culture today, because in our culture today, it's a lot of, how much money you make, what do you look like, where are you going, did you go to college or didn't you? I mean, like, it's all very superficial stuff. And that's what it is. It's just stuff, right? None of those things we can take to heaven with us. A very holy, wonderful priest, Father Thomas from the Brothers of St. John, looked at me this weekend over dinner and said, "Wendy, do you know that you won't be a teacher in heaven?" I was like, I don't know that I ever thought about that before, Father. He was like, you won't be. You won't be a teacher. I won't be a mom. I won't necessarily be a wife. But what I am going to be is a beloved daughter of God. That's who I'm going to be. So I have to figure out what that means. And I have to kind of take this step by step by step. So I think we have to kind of take a peek and use scripture a little bit. I'm going to use a really, really famous, I'm sure if you've ever been to a wedding, you're going to have recognized this. It's the kind of the famous wedding. So it's 1 Corinthians. I'm going to start on 4. Love is patient. Love is kind. It is not jealous. It is not pompous. It is not inflated. It is not rude. It does not seek its own interests. It is not quick-tempered. It does not brood over injury. It does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things. It believes all things. Hopes all things. Endures all things. Love never fails. Love also, on top of all of those things, is sacrifice. And I don't necessarily think that we understand that when we start dating, or even some of your friendships. You guys probably all have friendships where you can sit back and you can be like, that friend would give me the shirt off his back. I could call him at 2 o'clock in the morning and they would come help me if I was in an emergency and I had a flat tire. And you all know a friend who you would be like, not calling that person because they'll never answer their phone. Fair? Right? So we all have those people in our lives. So, like, for me, the love is patient rule, mom of 4, mother-in-law, my daughter, our daughter, I should say. My husband and I's daughter just got engaged this Thursday, so like a couple days ago. So now we're walking this. I have a daughter-in-law. I have a grandson about to turn 2. And love is patient. That's a hard one for a mom and a wife and work and all of that stuff. So you have to kind of take, in my opinion, baby steps and try and go little things at a time. I don't know about some of you, but if you run full bore and you're like, okay, here's my checkoff list, right? I want this. I want to live in the country. I don't want to live in this. I want this many kids. He has to be this. She has to be that. She has to be. And we start to do this tit for tat in our heads, then we're not open to what God might have in store for us on a different front. So we have to kind of get rid of all those preconceptions in our head of what somebody looks like or what the perfect person is. Because the reality is, hey, none of y'all are perfect and neither am I. That's just the reality. Mm-hmm. Love is 2 imperfect people loving God who loves perfectly, and hopefully we can reflect that. That's what it means. So it's like 2 very broken people who are trying to just get each other to heaven. Like when y'all get married, you start dating, that's what it is. So, as I'm dating, what do I look for? Is it somebody who make sure she's not taller than me? I don't know, okay? Like if you're a guy and you're like, I do not want a girl tall, okay, that's great. But what if your, rest of your life is 6'2" and you're, 5'11"? I don't know. You'll make it work because that's not what it's about, right? Here's what I would say. you first have to start off friends. And I go the friend easy way, and I'm going to give you some concrete stuff here in a little bit. But, like, friendship is 101. I cannot stress to you guys that enough. I know it might sound cheesy. Most of you are old enough, it probably doesn't anymore. Like, your spouse someday, if that's your journey and that's your vocation, will be your best friend. Or at least they should be. They should 100% be your best friend. Now, I have my best girlfriend still. I get that. My husband has his guy friends. I get that. But when I'm having a really bad day, he's the first person I call. When I'm having a really good day, he's the first person that I call. Like, and that's like itty bitty baby steps. My situation was a little bit different when we started dating. We were a little bit older. We were in our 20s. So that was a little bit different as far as that goes. But, like, you have to kind of understand where you want to go with this person, if that makes sense, right? Like, kind of sit back and kind of see where things are headed and your ideas on, is this person a friend? Do I like them? It's not, do they give me butterflies? Do I get sweaty palms? Am I nervous? Do I get dry cotton mouth when I'm around this person that I like? It's not. That's all part of it. Don't get me wrong. All those things happen, okay? But that is not what is love, right? Love takes time. Love is about time. Ask any little kid, right? They just want to be with mom and dad. They want to spend time. They don't necessarily, yeah, y'all want the $20. I get that too, okay? When you want, but I mean, it's time spent. So you can't necessarily know someone unless you have spend time with them. So, spending time with each other's friends, hugely, hugely important. Do your friends like the person you are dating? Because whether we like it or not, are real friends. I mean, real friends, right? I have a group of 3 girlfriends who they're the person that when I call to sometimes, not that I do this very often, might complain about my husband once in a while, right? And I call on the phone, and girlfriends are good enough that they look at, and they're like, Wendy, girl, you're wrong. And I'm like, but what? And they're like, nope, you're wrong. And I'm like, but you just, and they're like, Wendy, sister, you're wrong. And I'm like, and I don't like that, but they got my back because those are girlfriends who want me to be the best version of me that I could possibly ever be. So those are the friends that if they don't like someone you're interested in, take it to heart a little bit and find out why. Ask the why. Because they might have a little bit of insight on something that you can't see. Does that kind of make sense? Even if it's really hard to hear. Because sometimes it is really, really hard to hear. And I think that that can kind of come in and play into some things. Where are your hearts at? That's another one. Where do your hearts stand? Like, do you feel like your heart has the capacity to love somebody outside of yourself? Because part of real love is sacrifice, right? We see it on the cross. And so, real love is being willing to always better the other person. So, like, because I am married, like, our sole job for each other is to get each other to heaven. Like, that's what it means. When you get married, you become, like, our sacraments are so very, very beautiful in the church, but there's, like, 2 sacraments where, like, you become it. Like Father Feist and, like, all of our priest friends and all of our wonderful priests that we have, right? Like, when they receive priesthood, like, they are the priest. It's not their job. They don't clock out 9 to 5 and their job's over and they're somebody else. Like, our sacrament, Father was he was there. He was a witness just like the rest of our family was. But we made the promise to each other, right? So we are the sacrament. So however we live out our marriage is how people are going to see marriage. However you live out your singlehood It's how people are going to look at you like, okay, so she's single, he's single, they're kind of a jerk, or they're not, or you know what? Oh my goodness, they're really good with their little siblings. I might think that they might be a good mom. Those are the things when you hang out with each other's friends, and you start to slowly start to change things in your eyes. I think as far as who do we pick? Where is that at? So where is your heart? Is your heart open and ready to move and allow someone else in and be ready to start to sacrifice? So if you think that that's the case, and you feel like you have a pretty good sense on, all right, I need some work. We all need work. But yes, I know that I'm a beloved daughter or son. Who you run with and your friends, start to consider some of those people around you that you know have the same virtues as you, right? Do they go to Mass? Do they pray? Are they kind? Are they compassionate? Maybe it's funny. My husband he is a hoot. He is the type of man, our almost 15-year-old daughter said the other day, I thought this was really funny. He says, Mom, don't you just hate, we were in the car, and he had done something to upset me. I have no idea even what it was. And I was just looking out the window, and I was like, nope, don't talk to me, looking out the window, right? And the 15-year-old in the back says, don't you just love how Dad, even when you're mad at him, he says something usually silly or dumb, and you laugh, and you can't, and I was like, stop, you're not helping the cause for me. Like, no, Mom, You're on Mom's side, do not help me. But my husband is very good at that. Like, we decided early on in our relationship that there were a couple of things that we weren't going to do. I had been in a relationship, he had been in relationships, and I thought I was going to pull an old one. So we got into our first fight. We did not get into our first fight till we were engaged. So that was pretty good, but everybody's going to have an argument. And I storm out of my mom's house, and I start heading down one side of the sidewalk, expecting that he's going to come after me, right? Wrong. He literally, I got halfway up the street, turned around, and he was walking off my parents' porch, heading the other direction, okay? And I was like, that has not happened before. What do I do? And so I walked back to him, and he was like, if you want to go, go. And I was just like, he's mature, right? Like, he wasn't going to play the game, right? And so it was like, okay, I'm sorry I walked away, and we need to have a conversation about it instead of just doing, just getting upset and just walking away from somebody. So, little things like that. We made sure that we went to Mass together. That was huge for us. We went to church together weekly. Eventually, we started to go to church more with my mom and dad, as my parents are older now. So we literally go to church, and now our son and his wife and the others, and sometimes the boyfriend or somebody of the other daughters are there too, and it's growing. And for me, that's as a mom now and a wife, that's something that you can sit back and be like, this is really cool. So stop and think about those types of things when you think about who you might want to date as well. What virtues, what things, do they have as far as quality wise? Do they balance you out? Opposites do tend to attract. It just does. It happens. It's, I'm the crazy loud one in our family. My husband's calm, cool, collected. Thank you, Lord. Because he is the calm in my storm. I mean, that's what he does. So if I am flying off the handle about something, because I am a reactive mom and person a lot, and how I feel, and I might react a certain way, he'll be like, did you ever think about it this way? He's like, I've only known you for 23 years. I am your husband and know you better than anybody else. Just hear me out. And I'm like, most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, he's right. Because he loves me enough to also tell me and want me to grow too. So it's like we're pushing each other to grow and to be better and to do more. So I think that that's a huge challenge in today's culture, because I think we're kind of like this right now. Like, you know, girls can do everything guys can do, and guys can do it better, or whatever that old lovely saying is that's totally not true, right? Okay? It's about complementing each other. It's not about being better than the other or one-upping each other. Guys, your role in the relationship is to be the protector and the head. If you don't feel like you're a very good protector, look to St. Joseph, right? Because, like, dude, the man said nothing that we know of, right? In Scripture. It's like a great example of my husband. Like, said it like he's very quiet. So, like, Joseph said nothing. But he was loyal. He was steadfast. And he listened to God. And he protected them. In every aspect, he protected them. And then Mary. Can you imagine the love between the two of them? Like, there's just this beauty, the respect that she must have had for him, and vice versa. You know, I mean, her love to me has to go so far beyond. I mean, she was a teenager, and he believed her. I mean, I know the angel helped with it. Like, I get that. But, like, he believed her, and then he protected her. So your job as men, as young men, is to protect all the women in your life. I'm going to stretch it outside of just a girlfriend. Like, you're there, you should be protecting your mamas. You should be protecting your sisters. So that means that your little sister starts dating. Well, you best be there to be like, why are you dating her? Are you okay? Are you sure? All right? And that's what our son does. He teases more than anything. But Dylan's our oldest, and then we have 3 daughters. And he's in his 20s. So, like, he totally is, like, all over the 17-year-old sister who wants to start dating. He's like one of those big brother, you know what I mean? Which is really good, because that's that protection that comes out, right? And girls, this can be hard. We like to project what we want, and sometimes it always doesn't come back right. Sometimes. So, if they want to open the car door, I know you can open the car door. Ladies, I know you can open your own door. I know that you can carry your books or the groceries or whatever it is. I get it. Let him do it. Let him do it. I know that seems really, really little, but, like, that gives him confidence. Like, she trusts me. Like, and I know that sounds really minuscule, and I get that, but she trusts me to, like, open the door. She trusts me to carry in the groceries and put them away, maybe, okay? So, like, then you slowly grow, and you just keep trusting. And then, guys, sometimes it can be really hard for guys to be vulnerable, and this is where we kind of like, really bad example. I'll give you a really bad example. When I get nervous, I laugh. I don't know about any of the rest of you. I get a little giggly. I get a little, when I'm nervous, I either cry or I laugh, so I get a little, anxiety. Yeah, my husband proposed, and I laughed at him.
Oh, dang.
Don't do that.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Don't do that. And it wasn't like but I was like, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was one of those moments, because it was, like, happening, and you're in the moment. And he was like, is that a yes? Yes. So, I mean, like, laughter, oh my goodness. If you're a serious person, I will pray for your future spouse right now, okay? Because you have to have laughter, because if you don't laugh, you'll cry, and that's okay. You can do both, but you have to laugh. You have to find the joy. Like, God wants us to be joyful, whether we're single, whether we're married, whether we're priest, whether we're religious. He wants us to see the joy in our lives. And so, as women, sometimes, like, I tend to be the lead of a lot of things, just because I have a very strong personality. And so, because of that, I know that has I know that that's a fault in me. I have to take and let the reins go and let him do his thing. Because he's very capable. He is 100% capable and can actually do things better than me sometimes. I just have to let him. So ladies, like, I really want to stress that because we're kind of in this world and we've been in a culture for quite a while where women can be men and we can do it all, and I know we can, but that doesn't mean that we're meant to do it all. We're meant to help each other. They protect us. We protect them in a different way. So when they decide to be vulnerable, take that to heart. Listen. Because as girls, we have this amazing ability. I used to tell this to my teenage kids when I would teach in the high schools. That, like, junior high boys and high school boys, I know you guys are older than that, but, like, when you like a girl, you like a girl so, it's so sweet. And girls can just, like, crush you. It is the craziest thing. Like, I've seen them. Like, they're just, like, I'll never forget this one little girl I knew. This boy, he said, "I love you." And she looked at him and she goes, "That's nice." And I was like, okay. Maybe shouldn't have said that's nice. Maybe let's work on the delivery of thank you. You don't have to say I love you back. Don't get me wrong, but, like, that's nice. Maybe not the best choice of words. Okay? So, yeah, so having a good sense of humor, lots and lots of grace, lots and lots of Jesus. Right? So, like, if you, depending on how you've been grown up, starting to date can be scary. So if you don't have a strong relationship with God the Father, because you have issues or problems or whatever it might be with your dad, pray on that. Pray on that, pray on that, pray on that, pray on that. Go to St. Joseph. Look to strong men in the Bible. Go to an uncle. Go to a grandpa. Go to somebody that you have as a young man that can show you what it means to be a man of faith and a man of God. Because us as women, we need you. Let me tell you, as a catechist, or as a, a director of religious ed and a youth minister, like, I have 30 adults helping, and out of those 30 adults that help me, I have, like, 5 or 6 guys. Like, we need you. We need strong men. Which means as we have these strong men, that means we need strong women to build up those men. Does that make sense? Like, we have to be willing to let them do things for us. We have to be willing to let them lead even when we want to lead. And that means, as scary as it might be, if your personality as a young man is not necessarily that instinctive leader, just say, "Hey, I want to pray tonight." I don't know about you guys, but praying is actually the most intimate thing. If you did not know that, praying is the most intimate thing that 2 people can do. Whether it's friendship, whether it's boyfriend and girlfriend, whether it's husband and wife. It's literally the most intimate thing. The world will tell us that sex and everything else is so intimate. Let me tell you what, I know people who have sexual relationships that don't even know each other's names. You ask 2 people to pray together and they can't do it. We're willing to share bodies, but we're not sharing souls. And as Christian Catholics created in the image and likeness of God, we are both. So what happens to our bodies affects our soul. How I train up and how I nurture my soul, I will react in my body and the outward world. So the closer I am to God, the more I become his hands and feet. But I have to continue to work on that. It's not something that happens overnight. It's a slow drip that happens. So don't be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not doing this, and this. I need to do all." No, just pick one thing. If you're dating someone right now, start with praying. It can be a little awkward at first. It's okay. Lead it. Do something that's written so you don't have to worry. There are a couple really good books. I tried to get a copy, and I'm still going to try to and let Janelle know. It's no longer in print, but I know a few places that still carry it. My husband and I used it when we first started dating, and it's a very itty-bitty little book, but it was great because it's got, like, his, hers, his, and then together. So, like, it's to get used to that praying together type thing, if that's something that you're unfamiliar with and don't know how to do, because it can really be bad when it's starting out. Bad as in scary, okay? But the good news is if you really care about this person, you're just asking them to pray for you. So you're just like struggle. Or start off with what's your highs and lows today. Do the rose, thorn, bud type thing, right? Okay? Do something that is a good. Your rose, your thorn, where you fell or where you're struggling, and the bud, something you're hopeful for. And do that together every day. And that starts that. And even if it's little stuff, you're in college, you got a test coming up, I got a big exam, can you help me? Or something's going on at home, I'm unsure, I got a job interview, can you please pray for me? Something very, very little, and then make sure that you do it. I know a young couple, which I was so blessed to meet this past summer. They live in 2 separate states. They actually met on a online Catholic dating site. They met, and they both helped out at a Catholic camp that I was at this year. And they're actually getting married this summer. But what's very cool is they live 3 hours away from each other, and every night they are on the phone doing evening prayer together and then prayers. Every night, long distance. And then when they are together, they make sure it's quality time. So like if you are dating and you want it to be holy and healthy, I would say kind of like the do's and don'ts, if you want to think of it as that way, as do pray, do go to Mass, do spend time with each other's families. This is huge, super important. Do hang out with each other's friends groups, right? Do be honest. If it's something little and you're like, well, I don't know that I would do that, or my family does it this way. Okay, then just have a conversation about it. And then some of the don'ts when we're dating, right? If you want to be holy dating, if you want to be chaste while you're dating, which I'm assuming you all do, right? Okay. Then don't set yourself up for failure. Set yourself up for success. So what do I mean by that? Don't be snuggling on the couch watching a movie at night. Why? Because you love each other, you're attracted to each other, and snuggling up is just going to put you both in like, oh, why are we doing this to ourselves? To be honest. Because you care about each other and because you like each other. So the more physical you do, the more physical we bond. It's just the way that God made it. So the more physical touch that I have with the person that I'm dating with, the stronger the bond is. So just understand that. The more physical I am with the person that I'm with, the stronger the bond is. Even if you necessarily don't think that that's the way it is, it is. Why do you think newborn babies that are born now, they've switched in about the last 15 to 20 years, and they go skin to skin with mom and dad? Physical touch. You can have a child. One of our friends' daughters was born super, super early, was having issues, heart rate was low, was not breathing really well. They put that baby skin to skin with mom through the entire monitoring, and the heart rate came up and everything started to level out. Human touch is so desperately important, but it is created by God for love of all of us. And human touch is important, but we have to watch how we use it. Okay? So, being alone, if you're alone and you're out in public, yes, but like putting yourself in that situation where you know you're going to want to make out. It's really hard to be chaste if we're in the heat of the moment. You know what I mean? It really is. So, another thing, when you start dating, voice that opinion. I tell everybody that. You start dating, give your expectations up front. Because you've made them up front. And you're like, dude, we're just hanging out. We're just talking. You guys just, I love it. I love it, love it. All of us. We didn't just talk. You either dated or you weren't. You know what I mean? Now everybody's talking for a while, it seems like. And I'm like, what is that? Teenage daughters. So I'm like, what is that? Well, we're friends, but we like each other. Okay. Now, in our house, they have to ask Dad to date their daughter. This is just a little side note for all you young men in the room. Like, we're really old school that way. Not that old school, but the kids say we're old school. And that is that they do. They have to say, Ron, are you okay if I date your daughter? I'd like to date your daughter. And then my husband usually comes up with, what do you want to do that for? And so, and they're like, is he serious? Isn't he? Yes, he's being serious. But, so they kind of go through this, right? But then they have to give me 3 things. And then I put my daughter on the spot. And I'm like, and they know that. And I'm like, why do you want to date him? So ask yourself, like, why do I want to date this person? And could I tell their parents why I want to date their daughter or their son? Because it goes both ways, right? And so, like, our daughter who just got engaged 3 days ago, on Thursday this week, her now fiance, I thought it was really interesting because when he asked to date her almost 3 years ago, when Ron asked that question, his reply, I like things about her. She makes me laugh. She's a lot of fun. And I'm not kidding you. I'm going to marry her. And now we're going to have a wedding. You know? Like, why do we date? Do we date just because we're afraid and we don't want to be alone? Because we shouldn't date like that because it's not making you become who you are as a beloved son or daughter. And it's wasting someone's time, to be honest. I first have to be whole and okay with me before I can be someone's better half. Does that make sense? So I want to give you guys a few good old, and some of these I probably have already said because I tend to be that way. I like this one. So it's not just about going to church. Choose a partner who loves God as much as you. That can be hard. But it's out there. So you want to cultivate that. You don't want to be afraid of it. Because that's something that I think in my life it took me a little while to figure out because I was too worried, I think, about what other people thought of me, which I think is a kind of our culture in general. But you have to kind of know that the only person that really honestly matters is the Lord. Like, he's who I have to answer to someday. So I have to kind of, but you want someone who loves God as much as you do. And then that dating with intention to get married, like I said. Don't waste each other's time. If you're friends, I would say stay in the friend zone for as long as you can because the longer you're friends, the more you see everybody's true colors. You all know this. You guys are out of high school now at this point, you know that. I used to tell everybody 90 days. I still say 90 days. 90 days, nothing more than holding hands. That means you do not kiss for 90 days, which sounds really crazy. And everybody's like, 90 days. And I'm like, it's really not that long. If you're gonna be married 60 years, 3 months is nothing. Okay? Like in the big scheme of things. But 90 days, nothing more than holding hands. And this is why. In those 3 months, as you hang out, as you talk, as you pray, as you spend time with each other's families, you're going to start to really be like, oh, I see their character. I see their virtues. I see what's going on with them. Are they sound? By the end of 3 months, you'll start to see someone's temper, how they react when something goes wrong. You will start to see how they deal with stress. You'll start to see some of those things in someone after 90 days. And after 6 months, you will really start to see someone's true colors. And then you can continue to grow. But if I start getting physical too soon, then what it does is it stunts your relationship right there and then. So that's important that you need to know. You've now bonded with someone that you really don't know yet because you haven't gotten the ability to truly know them. Does that make sense? We all put our best foot forward first. We all do. So you have to have that time to really get to know this person. There was a young girl who was dating that's close in our family, and he always wanted her to go to his parents' house. Always wanted her to go to his parents' house. And the mom was like, why doesn't he ever go? Like, he's the boy, you're the girl. He should be coming and hanging out with your family more than it always being that. That's just their idea. And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, I don't know. And she invited him to go to church. He didn't want to go to church. He went to church, he went to religion because he needed to, but like he didn't have that solid background and stuff. And that other mom was like, you know what? Like, I don't know that he's the right fit for our family. It's not that he's not a great kid. It's not that he's a good young man, because he is. Does that make sense? But I don't know if she's looking for someone who's going to be that supportive father, husband, head of the household, Christ figure for her. Yes, he can grow into it. So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, but you want to look for somebody who loves God as much as you do. Somebody who's willing to walk that intention with you down the road. Another one. You want to try to embody basically Corinthians 1, which can be really, really hard, or Corinthians 13, 1 Corinthians 13 that I read. Try to embody that a little bit more, right? So even if your faith life is a little bit off of that, just understanding that that's the goal. That's something to strive for. That helps. Okay? This one can be hard. Relying on God and each other when something gets tough. And I'll give you an example of something that actually happened about 3 years ago that I thought was really beautiful that I got to actually be part of, that was just really special. So my future son-in-law's grandfather had passed away. He was super close with him. And my daughter was like, what do I do? What can I do? You know what I mean? Like, he's hurting. What can I do? And I was like, let's pray. And she was a little nervous. I was like, so let's pray the three of us. So we just sat down and we just prayed. And I prayed with him and I prayed with them. To show them, like, that's what we do when times are hard. Does that make sense? Like, he's there in the midst of it, even if we don't see it. So we have to invite him in. He's always there, but we have to remember to invite him in. He needs our participation in the relationship. It's really boring. If you ever been or have one of those friends where they only call you when they need something, sometimes we turn that into God. We're only talking to him when we need something. That's not a relationship. Relationship's both ways. I gotta listen to him and I have to talk to him and I have to thank him. All of those things. I went through the last one. I went through all the others for you. Spend time with other godly couples. Have friends. Have the support system. Some of my greatest friends are the people that was in our wedding party who we're still friends with today. Don't get me wrong. Still friends. They're not the friends that we do everything together with. Our closest friend, my best friend's husband, just became a deacon a couple months ago. Amazing. So awesome. I got to be at ordination. It was such a blessing. Like, and she's that friend that'll be like, Wendy, you're wrong. So, and then we have a couple other friends, like our friends, and we didn't go to school together. Those girlfriends of mine, we didn't go to school together. We met each other afterwards when we were in our 20s. And we've just developed this friendship, but all of our friendships are based on our faith. Does that make sense? Teach CCD together, all that kind of stuff, you know? And so our friendships around that. So I would say do your best at trying to surround yourself with people that are in those same mindsets. To help you, if you're interested, and I know that they have some books up there too, as far as some good books that are out there that are good go-tos, Jason Everett and Christina Everett are just awesome. Their stories are amazing. Jason was chased his entire time. Kristalina wasn't, but then came back and was chased, and so Jason and her got married and had a lot of healing. But they have this pure love. The pure womanhood is really, really good, and pure manhood is really good. I really like this one. This is from the Augustine Institute. It's called Dating Detox. Okay, so it's really good. It kind of takes you through 40 days of trying to perfect your love. So whether you're dating or you're not, it doesn't matter. It's 40 days of how do I get my head and my heart and my soul right when I'm living in a very imperfect world. So how can I do this? So this one's a good one for that. I like this one too. It's Chris and Linda Pageant's. It's actually their story of how they returned to chastity. So if there is a fall, we have the lovely grace of confession. To go to confession and start over, it doesn't mean staying in that sin, right? Like, if I really love you, I want you to be the best person you can be, and what that means is I need to help you get to heaven, which means I need to get you to confession and we start over, because the reality is sometimes we mess up, but that's the beautiful grace of our faith. So this one is called Not Ready for Marriage, Not Ready for Sex. So, and it's just their story of how they came back from being intimate with each other and being in that, and then turning things around and what that did for their life. And then the last one, if you're like, I don't even know if I want a boyfriend or girlfriend now, Wendy. That's really great, everything you said, but I don't know. That's okay. This one is really good. It's actually by Bobby and Jackie Angel. If you know them, they have a lot of Ascension Press videos on YouTube. Really, really good stuff. Husband and wife, and Father Mike Schmidt. It's the new book, Pray, Decide, and Don't Worry. So it is all about 5 steps to discerning God's will for your life in general. Super, 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 super good. Very easy read. With that, and this last thing, Emotional Virtue. If you don't know Sarah Swafford, check her out. Good stuff. All talks about all the virtues that we need to have of purity of heart and how, humility, honesty, courageousness, all of those things, basically the gifts of the Spirit that we all need in life and when we're dating and stuff with each other as well. Does anybody have any questions? Because other than that, we'll pray. Yeah.
So a lot of these concepts that you're saying with your do's and don'ts, like going to mass with each other or praying with each other, is a bad example to my question. Or like with spending time with each other, how do you practically do that with someone long distance? If you're with early in a relationship or 6 months into dating.
And they live far away?
Yes, a long distance relationship.
Long distance relationship. I know that it really, I'm just going to say it's going to suck, but if it's long distance but you want to keep that connection, I would do this and be on the phone a lot with them, like the couple who dated and, you know what I mean, every night they were praying together. But what they did when they did get together, because they were older, I'm not kidding you, without a doubt, she stayed where his apartment complex was. They always had an extra room, like that was for other people. He actually went out of his way and talked to the apartment manager, and she stayed there, and he stayed in his place. So they would still spend a weekend together, but never, so they wouldn't have that extra temptation. I know a couple who were both a little bit older when they started to date. They had both been in previous relationships. They had both owned homes, but in different areas, and were selling their home and creating their new home. And they literally they stayed in separate bedrooms. They literally chose to do that because they knew their love for each other was so strong, which is beautiful, and that's the way that it's supposed to be, is going to call them to that unity. I mean, that's what God calls us to, is union. Unity with Him and union with each other if we're called to be married. So it can be really, I would agree, it could be really, really hard. Now, if you still live at home, it can be something where, you know what I mean, that there's a way to set something up and they can stay at a family member's house, or, you know what I mean, like there are ways to work around it, but it does take work. And it takes a tricky mindset to be like, okay, how are we going to do things together, you know? I would say trying to spend as much time, you know what I mean, when you can, and make it those times that are really important. Do things that mean stuff. Take each other to your favorite places in your town. Introduce them to your friends. Take them to your church. Introduce them to the people in your life that mean something the most. And then also have a lot of fun doing that. You know what I mean? So if that means going to the movies, going to an amusement park, doing stuff like that is good too. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I know it's really hard when it's long distance. It's not always an easy one. Anybody else? Yeah.
Do you have a simple tip as to how to approach not bringing any problems or issues from a past relationship into a new one with a new person?
Yeah. That one is tricky. So let me explain something, right? So there's a difference between guilt, shame, and what we hold on to, right? Okay? So if I go to confession and a relationship ended wrong, but I know that there are things I needed to do or they needed to do or I was hurt, right? Get it off your chest. Go to confession, receive that grace, get rid of that guilt, per se, right? Okay? Shame for what's happened in a past relationship, whether it's how I treated the person or whether it's intimacy, it doesn't matter. On either way, shame. Shame is something that's going to take time and you're going to have to work through. So spiritual direction, huge. Tear that apart with someone who's got good spiritual direction with you. I would say pray. I would say also, here's the craziest thing. Be brutally honest with the person that you're going into. I mean, like, brutally honest. When you start dating and you're like, okay, so like, how many other people have you dated? What have you done? Is the most awkward conversation. Don't get me wrong, it's an awkward conversation. But that starts to build trust too. And then you start to see, okay, is this something that I can work through? And then trying to remember with the grace of God and a lot of humility that this person you're now dating, it is not fair for you to put what happened in your past relationship on them. You have to understand that each individual person makes choices, and we all have our own consequences to those choices. And so I think that that's like lots of prayer and being brutally honest. Like, you know what? I struggle with trust issues. This is what you need to know. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
I know often dating can be very confusing or very easy or you break up. What do you do if someone's in a relationship for like 7 or 8 years and just dating forever? Like, you move on and move out? Or...
That's what's really hard. So, like,
can you repeat the question?
yeah. So she asked what happens in the relationships that they're dating. They seem like forever, and like they've been dating 7 years, and it's kind of like use the restroom or get off the pot, right? That's kind of where I would go. And a very, very lighthearted answer to you. But in reality, it goes back to that, why am I dating you? Am I dating you just because I don't want to be alone? Because that's what that sounds like. If I'm dating you because I want to get to you to heaven, then I'm not going to live with you before marriage, which I know is very culturally different, but is very Catholic, okay? Or at least Catholic, living your faith Catholic, okay? So, like, you wouldn't want to live together. And I understand that just because you live together doesn't mean you're automatically having sex. I understand that. And I also understand that if you're not living together, that you could still be having sex. I understand that too, right? But the longer that we're together, I would ask that person, like, why haven't we taken the next step? You know what I mean? And really have an open, honest conversation, because something's going on where there's a commitment issue. You know what I mean? After that long. You know what I mean? Especially as an adult. Like, our daughter and her now fiance, they'll be together almost 3 years, but she was a senior in high school and he was out of high school already. You know what I mean? Maddie's 20 and he's 23. So just a little bit, you know what I mean? A little bit different. But I do know of people who that is the situation, and they kind of fall into that. They start to live together because that's kind of the next step. We've been together now, we've dated, and so then it's kind of what it becomes is a relationship of convenience. And when I become a relationship of convenience, neither one of us are getting each other to heaven. Does that make sense? Because it's easy and it's working on a surface level, but it's not helping me get to heaven. And that's what my partner is made for, and that's what I'm made